Darkseid from DC was a bit of a tricky challenge. Ever since this glorious comment suggested that I should cover how to kill Darkseid, I've been racking my brain around it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that, oh, it's just as simple as do this, because it's gonna be a little trickier than that. You see, killing a physical form of Darkseid isn't that hard. I mean, it can be, but it's been done enough times in media to show this is clearly possible without much issue. However, killing the avatar of Darkseid might be a lot trickier. Now, I'm just going to state this right now. I am not an expert on DC lore. So if I get something wrong, or if there is a confirmed way to kill his avatar for good, then, you know, just tell me. Or by avatar, I mean his true form, not the avatar he uses. However, a lot of plans in my book of how to kill or otherwise disable him involve his avatars, and I'll explain how as we go along. Now, to be fair, killing a normal form of Darkseid is going to be a challenge in of itself. But I'm not going to cover that because, like I said, this has happened enough times to show it's easily doable. So, how do you kill the main avatar? Well, I have a few ideas. Number one is perhaps the most simplest. If bit weird, if you might think of it. Now, imagine this. If every avatar represents a piece of the true Darkseid, then the pieces could be thought of like a cell. So, you know, like how we're made out of tons of little cells, okay? Now, logically speaking, if I snap my fingers and I destroy one of your cells, that is going to have basically zero effect on you, because you lose tons of cells every day. They're born and replaced and die. It's just a cycle. Even some of the longest lasting cells constantly die. So, generally speaking, if I destroy one of your cells, you aren't going to be in a lot of trouble, not realistically. However, if I kept destroying your cells one by one, did it enough times and fast enough, it would eventually start doing damage to you, until eventually you would probably die, especially if I were to target certain locations. Now, I'm not suggesting that every piece of Darkseid's avatar acts like a cell, but I am suggesting a fragment of sorts. If Darkseid is a living being to some extent, then each avatar must represent a piece of him. Destroy enough pieces of him, and he might die alright. Like I said, if I destroy enough of your cells, eventually you'll die. Now, of course, this does have two caveats. One, it implies that each avatar is, like I said, a piece of him, in the sense that if I destroy enough of X piece, it will eventually destroy X metaphorical organ. It doesn't exactly work like that, probably, but it might be worth a shot. Of course, if you destroy every single avatar, it might also work. Because if every piece represents a piece of him, then if I destroy every single piece of him, that might do the trick. However, I fully admit that's a bit cheesy, and it relies on you hopping across the multiverse, which could be extremely difficult to do. Not to mention the fact that Darkseid would, at some point, probably pick up on the fact that someone was going around the multiverse, systematically killing every single version there was of him. So I do fully admit that would be a bit tricky to pull off, but is doable. A second way, which I think is a slightly more likely version to happen, if perhaps a bit more reckless, is what I like to call the redemption plan. Now, that is completely ridiculous, okay? But it might work. Now, I'm going to bit off of the interpretation of Darkseid that's given in the Imaginary Axis video, so if that's a bit incorrect, or I'm going off of an incorrect assumption here that I'm making, then so be it. But if he does represent evil in some primal sense, which has been suggested in the comics enough times I'm willing to bet on it, then theoretically, if you could make him good, it would stop working. Now, or at the very least, he'd be a force of good. Now, of course, it's a bit cheesy. Now, I'm not suggesting we go take him to therapy or something. He'll become a good, decent member of society. No, I'm suggesting that we simply just, find some MacGuffin that says to kill the evil out of someone. You know, some device or machine or spiritual artifact that's capable, at least in its story, of redeeming even the worst of sinners, and then proceed to use that as a, game plan to redeem him. And I'd use the avatars to do it. Once again, if every avatar is a piece of Darkseid, then theoretically, if the redemption effect acted like a sort of virus that even touching one part of it would act as a redemption mechanic, then make sure one avatar touches it, then all of them would slowly become affected, becoming good. Think of it like the, whatever the dark matter or dark goo was from Ninjago Season 2, I think it was. Think of it like that, except a good version of it. This is a bit cheesy, like I said, may not even work, especially because Darkseid is so powerful. I imagine a lot of these kind of things would be a bit hard to deal with, but it could be done. Option 3 is a bit more sensible. Simply get someone big enough or powerful enough to go take on his true form in whatever dimension it is. Now, it is worth now, of course, Darkseid is extremely powerful in the DC universe, very much so, and well, he's even more powerful than new gods. But this is a huge but, though. He does have rivals of similar power. Now, of course, this does get very close to the... I'm not going to use any omnipotent characters, but once again, one of the rules of being omnipotent, according to most definitions of the term, is that you can't have rivals of similar power. Now, of course, Darkseid is significantly more powerful than all of them, but that does mean it would be theoretically possible for someone else to beat him. I suggest his son might be the best option, Orion, but, you know, take that up with whoever you want. But that's a bit more of a sensible, less suicidal option, but it also relies on having someone powerful enough to take him on that isn't going to do something bad in return. Now, this one, the last plan I have, is perhaps the most meme strategy possible, but it may work. In Final Crisis, it's mentioned that, well, not mentioned, it's a huge plot of the storyline, that Darkseid fires a bullet that from the future that kills Orion in the present that goes into the past. So that effectively means that using meme strategies like weapons that are fired from the future could work on Darkseid, since his son and him operate on the same rules. So, and this is the most meme strategy possible, wait until you're in the future at some point when you have a weapon or a time where Darkseid doesn't exist, then fire the weapon backwards. This is a bit memey. Batman did something similar to this, though a little bit more direct, and Darkseid was incarnating, it was a whole deal. But it is perhaps a very effective strategy. After all, him using on his son Orion sets a precedent. So get one of those, I forget its name, but get one of those bullets, or just something similar, in the future when you can kill Darkseid, then fire it into the past to kill Darkseid, and then be done with it. That is how this meme strategy requires time travel metaphysics that I can't even comprehend, and you're probably going to need at least 3 versions of the Doctor to explain it to you, but I think it could work. Now, those are my ways of how to kill Darkseid, how to either destroy or disable him in some fashion that would allow him to be defeated. Now, of course, these might all not work. I'm sure people, common fans, could argue about it, but I think if you would need to go, if like Darkseid was hacking your reality, and you need some way to permanently defeat him, this is your best option. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments on my plans or want to suggest more plans yourself, feel free to put in the comments. If you have anyone else you want to see how I would try to kill or how it could be killed, then put in the comments below too. And you might just get featured in the next video of it. Anyway, see you later. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.